I didn't have anybody to celebrate my wins with and express my,
or my losses.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. But now I do have that. But you said, no, I need other brothers to experience that.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of brothers that are, a lot of us are suffering in silence, man. During 2020, 2021, I had two brothers that weren't close friends, but so I knew these brothers, and they committed suicide, man. I always think back like, damn, if I would have picked up the phone and had a conversation, if I would have told this brother that I'm going through something too, could that have possibly changed the fate of that particular brother, man? But there's a lot of us, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. It doesn't matter how good your wife looked. It doesn't matter how well your kids are doing in school. None of that matters, man. We're just carrying a lot of baggage. And the deeper we get in these conversations, I realize a lot of this baggage is not even necessarily ours. Like, it's being passed on to us from our fathers and our grandfathers and our uncles, man. This is really a generational thing that as Black men, a lot of us are going through.
Peace, family. Welcome to the Black Businessman Podcast, where we talk to Black men who are in business, trying to make money and make an impact, who are making money. They can make an impact in the community, who are building something that affects other people and impacts other people for the betterment of their life, right?
Yes, sir.
So today, I want my brother, Mr. Shelton, what's going on? Doing good?
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
Good.
Appreciate the invite, brother. Greatly appreciate the invite.
I was waiting for you to be on here. We done talked off camera. We done had some bills. He runs Just Add Honey with his wife.
Yeah, so my wife and I, we own a loose leaf tea company called Just Add Honey. We have a tea house on the East Atlanta Beltline if you live in Atlanta, Georgia. We also do online sales. So if you live outside of Atlanta, feel free to order online. Our website is justaddhoney.net. That's kind of my day-to-day business. In addition to that, my love and my passion is a nonprofit that I started 4 years ago called Undugu, which is Swahili for brotherhood. And that's something that I've been putting a lot of effort and energy into, really trying to save brothers one conversation at a time, man.
One conversation.
And I think that's how we met.
That's how we met. Yeah, definitely did not have the space and, didn't understand that men live these lives of quiet desperation, right? Where we're just out here going to work, toiling. And tell us, why did you start Undugu? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so honestly, it was really by accident. So I was turning 40. I give you kind of a long, short story. It was the day before my 40th birthday, and I was with Just Add Honey and got a really big deal, a deal that I had been working on for like 2 years. And it should have been the day I was excited. The day before my 40th, got this big deal. And I remember walking to my car. I started going through my phone, like, I need to find a drink. I need to go. My wife had, again, bought me a ticket to Bali. I was hanging out with one of my friends who I've known for 7 or 8 years here in the States. He was living in the States for a while. He went out to do a teaching career out in Abu Dhabi, and just like, I'm not going back to the USA. So we started kind of like hopping around different countries. Yeah. We went out there and built for about a week and a half. And during that time, I always had a strong relationship with this brother. His name is Lewis. I always had a strong relationship with Lewis. But it was something about being out there in Bali, man. We really started having some very engaging outside of surface conversation. I always tell brothers, how it is when you at a barbershop. Real simple. And what started happening, I was very transparent, very honest. I used this symbol called removing my armor. I removed my armor and was very transparent. And it was met with the same transparency. And so that went on for 4 or 5 days, just like continuous, like digging deep, talking about growing up in the household environment we grew up in, how that affects us as adults. And I remember coming back on a flight, coming back to the States. And I was like, damn, man, this regular surface conversation I'm having with brothers, like, that no longer serves me. So what I'm gonna start doing, literally having this internal conversation as I'm on a plane, like, what I'm gonna start doing is, when I meet with one of my friends and they ask me how I'm doing, I'm gonna just be 100% real. So that's exactly what happened. Hey, Jermail, what's going on? Have us a little small talk, and I say, I'm going through ... And literally the first 10 brothers that I had I shared that with, everyone was like, damn, man, that's crazy you're saying that, bro, because I'm dealing with ... as well, whatever their ... is. And what I realized in that moment, over the course of those conversations, is like, damn, it doesn't matter how much money you make, right? These are brothers, these are men, right? So they got the good jobs, got the good cars, got the beautiful wives, the kids, like all the check marks that society has told us that we're considered successful. If we check all these boxes, all these brothers had those boxes checked and then some, and they're still walking around really depressed, man, and not really feeling their most authentic self. So after those first 10 times, I was like, I need to have a conversation, like a group conversation. We still didn't have no name. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I knew a lot of solid men who were experiencing very similar things. And we met, actually met at the gathering spot the first time. We had no name, and I met for like 2 hours. Remember the next day I woke up, I had like 2 text messages. One of the brothers was like, Jermail, thank you so much for holding that space. I had one of the best conversations I've ever had with my wife, and it was because of something another brother said. And off that, I was like, damn, we got something. And so from there, we started really being more intentional about, creating a foundation and a nonprofit and all that good stuff. And that's kind of where we are right now.
So how did you come with the name Undugu?
So it was actually the founding partner, Lewis. He had been, again, a world traveler. So he had been to, I can't think exactly where he was at when he found the name Undugu, but it is Swahili for brotherhood.
So that whole eastern side,
Tanzania. And so he came up with the name of it. It just made sense. When I heard the name and what it represented, it was like, oh, this is the perfect. Like it was just like a no-brainer, honestly.
And for those who don't know, what does it mean?
So Undugu is Swahili for brotherhood. So the gathering of brotherhood, quite honestly. So it's brotherhood essentially.
What would you define brotherhood as?
It's a good question. I like proper questions. I would define brotherhood as a space, a brother creating a space for you, regardless of where you are, a space that's created for your fellow brother to be their most authentic self, right? Removing your armor and not having this facade with you. I think so often we're in these spaces, and especially for a lot of Black men, we almost show up based off what we do or what we're driving it, right? So I think for me, brotherhood is you removing all that other stuff, and you're coming your most authentic self. And I think that's where those magical conversations happen at, man.
And based on your experience dealing with all these brothers, why do you think we wear that armor?
I think for a lot of brothers, it's been we kind of grew up with it. And honestly, we've been inside the space. We had men as young as 19, as old as in their 70s. So I think first it's a generational thing. I think if you go back in the lineage, I think there was a time where Black men where you had to be strong, right? Going through slavery and all that, you had to be strong. And I think for a lot of Black fathers or even Black moms, we think that we're protecting our kids by being extra hard on them and telling you to, don't cry, toughen up. And I think that it starts off as a child and we just get accustomed to it. I always say, there's situations where you may have a son and a daughter that grow up inside the same household, right? Same mother, same father, same household. That daughter's been told all her life to speak up, open up. That son is told, keep it all in, shut up, right? Man up. And I think what happens is as these 2 kids get older, they move out the house, you have a son that is now married to someone, a daughter, someone else in another family, and she's been given those same guidelines and principles to open up. But that same son has been told to shut down. And I think when it comes to a lot of Black families, because men, we don't know, we haven't been given a toolkit to even really express ourselves. And I think oftentimes a lot of women have been given a toolkit. So women think, I'm generalizing, but oftentimes I hear women think that we don't want to open up. And I think more often than not, it's not about wanting to open up. We just don't know how to communicate. Mm-hmm. So what we teach, I won't say teach, some of the principles we have inside of Undugu is really speak freely, speak from an I perspective, no labels and no judgment. So you can really be your most authentic self when you're having a conversation. But what I realized early on with Undugu, if you're willing to be the first person to remove their armor, you'll have a bunch of men kind of like this. So what I told myself early on in the very beginning, I'll be the knight that always opens up my armor. But the cool thing about this though, man, now that we've evolved with inside of the community, I'm not even that person anymore, right? I mean, sometimes I might be that person, but there's so many other men that feel comfortable now in that space and comfortable with themselves that it doesn't always have to be me. And I think for me personally, that's the coolest world to me, man, to see other brothers. We were conversation yesterday. Had one of the brothers, he opened up, tears in his eyes, talking about what he was going through, right? We've been doing this work for a few years, and it's still, I'm still in awe on how brothers can feel so open and vulnerable to talk to men that they've never met before in their life, man. And that's just something I take great pride in, brother, honestly, man.
Just being in the space myself and being able to open up, I think that all the brothers who are there recognize that the other brothers who are there, just to take that step into that space, you have to be somebody that's trying to grow.
Absolutely.
Right? You never have a man that's like, because nobody's forcing you, right? You have to show up yourself. So it's never a space where it's like, oh, why are you taking me as garbage?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So every man that's there,
they have some type of intention.
Exactly, because we tell them exactly what it is. You know, like, hey, yo, we're coming here, we're gonna express, open up. It's a place where brothers is good. So I think that you create that space where the other brothers who refer other brothers, they explain it, and they bring in people who want that type of space.
Absolutely. The other thing I would add to that, which is something that I recognized this year, is the amount of brothers that are, their cups are being full just from being inside their room, right? I've always been a communicator, so I was always under the impression that in order to get your cup filled in this space, you have to talk. And then there's been so many times where, again, I get text messages or even right after the meeting, like, damn, Jermail, when that brother said that, like, I felt him. I'm going through the same thing. So I'm realizing that you can almost be a dragonfly in a wall, right? Just with you being inside that ecosystem in general, there's something that someone's going to say on average that's going to resonate with you, because our stories are very similar, man.
Very similar,
we all come from different paths, but our stories are very similar, man.
Now, we're all in the same thing that's going on. So the question is, what do you think is the perception of strength that we perceive as strength in here, and what is actual strength that you've seen men who are saying, this is a strong man right here?
So I think that, good question, brother. I think the perception of strength in general is you have to keep your heart in your chest. You got to put on that armor, and you can't express yourself in your full, most human form, right? So we've been telling ourselves that if you're a man, there's certain things that you can't cry, you can't show any emotion. And I think that's really furthest from the truth. I think it's quite the opposite. The more you're vulnerable, the more you're courageous enough or brave to kind of put your heart on the line and say, this is what I'm going through, this is who I am, accept me or not. I think that is really the ultimate act of bravery, to be perfectly honest with you, man. And I see that time and time again. And I think it's cool that we're starting to enter into a space where other men are starting to feel that. And it's something where, it's you have certain conversation in that space. I would say when words pierce your soul, you gotta surrender to that, bro. Like, I've seen guys inside, and it's so funny, we got a lot of brothers that come in brand new, and I can see it literally. So a brother come in, first timer, they might start off like this, right? And then conversation going. And so that brother moves from right here to like right here. And I'm looking at this brother like, I'm not saying it, but it's like, oh, he's loosening up, something's hitting him. And from there, you might start seeing like a foot tap, or like, a nigga tapping on dude tapping on the table. And then before you know that, the hands raising like, oh, pass me that cane. And it's because I think we all share this very unique experience, man. And there's, again, something has to touch you where you feel obligated almost. And it's almost like, I'm seeing this man open up in ways I've never seen another. How can I not follow this man's path, right? How can I not open up and share my story for other brothers as well, man? So it's it becomes contagious almost in a positive way. You get me excited when I start talking this talk.
No, this your passion.
Yeah,
this is what listen, I come here, you brought brothers in because brothers know that you're passionate, you care about us, you care, and this is not something that you had to do, right? You could have just had this conversation, got your cup full, but you was like, no, this experience was great for me. I want other brothers to experience this same thing that I'm going through, right? Because you could have just said, all right, I got great relationships. I got friends that I can talk to. I've established what was the first problem to begin with, was I didn't have anybody to celebrate my wins with and express my,
or my losses.
Right? But now I do have that. But you said, no, I need other brothers to experience that.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of brothers that are, a lot of us are suffering in silence, man. During 2020, 2021, I had two brothers that weren't close friends, but I knew these brothers, and they committed suicide, man. I always think back like, damn, if I would have picked up the phone and had a conversation, if I would have told this brother that I'm going through something too, could that have possibly change the fate of that particular brother, man. But there's a lot of us, and it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. It doesn't matter how good your wife look. It doesn't matter how well your kids are doing in school. None of that matters, man. We're just carrying a lot of baggage. And the deeper we get in these conversations, I realize a lot of this baggage is not even necessarily ours. Like, it's being passed on to us from our fathers and our grandfathers and our uncles, man. This is really a generational thing that as Black men, a lot of us are going through.
Coming off that, what does success actually look like? Because we have the money, the cars, the girl, the wife, the kids, all that. That was, hey, you got success. But what have you seen actually bring joy and fulfillment to men coming in this group?
I think success now, it's funny because as I heard you talk initially, that was my form of success. How much money I made, all that. I think now, man, for me, success is more of a feeling versus a tangible item, right? It's how I feel waking up, knowing that I control my schedule to a certain extent. I don't have to go in if I don't want to, right? I can hang out with the people that I want to hang out with because those are my people, right? And so not chasing after all the other stuff. And I mean, a lot of us like nice things. I'm more into that social currency, man. Like, and when I look back at my life, I've always been this person. I've always been a communicator, always been a talker. It's always really just kind of like, for me, tapping back into who Jermail really is, removing, as we always say, removing the label. So, who's Jermail outside of being a husband, outside of being a father, outside of being a business owner, and really tapping into who I am. So again, going back to your original question, I think success for me is more of a feeling. Because I know a lot of people who got a lot of money and they're miserable. Yeah, you could, by life's measurable, but internally, if you don't feel successful, and you ain't successful, I don't care what you pulling up. I don't care what that means, right? If you have a sense of emptiness, I don't think you might be successful based off of society's terms, but I think internally you're not successful personally.
But, that's really collective illusion, right? So there's a concept that we think that the rest of society thinks a certain way, but it's not really true. So it's an illusion that, so we all be like, society thinks that success is having a lot of money, right? But if you ask most people, they don't think that's success. They're not chasing after money. They don't want to be rich, right?
And that's just all our individual perception.
But
it's not based in reality.
Most people don't want to be rich. Most people, and when I say don't want to be rich, I'm saying they have the fantasy of I want to be rich, but they don't wake up every day driven.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like they grind it all the time. They're like, yeah, I want to be rich. But how many people, you don't want to be rich because you're not grinding to be rich, right? So that's what I mean by people don't really want to be rich, because people are not, they might play the lotto or do something like that, but they're not really thinking about being rich, right? It's not an everyday, like, hey, I got to be rich. So they're not scheming every day. They're not plotting every day. People just like to enjoy life. But the illusion is we're like, hey, everybody wants to be rich. Everybody's getting money because that's what's force fed to us.
Do you think that creates an internal unnecessary drive for us, right? When the world, when a lot of the media is saying you're successful if you do that, is that almost creating an imaginary carrot and donkey thing where it's like, I have to do this in order to fulfill this obligation of being successful or internally happy?
Well, it's we all want to please each other, right? And so if I think that in order for me to be successful in your eyes, I have to be rich, right? A lot of times we don't want to be rich. We want to be successful in your eyes, right? The riches is not for my own personal gratification. It's to be successful in your own eyes. Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? My man, I'm getting the bag. I'm straight. Because every time they come to you, like, and then how many times people done came to you and be like, I'm getting the bag. And you like, it's like when you're a kid, when you're young, you like, I got all the girls. And you're like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
good for you.
Like, good for you, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, but because I tell you, a lot of times, a lot of things happen. They're not for the actual act. They're to get people to be like, oh, you did that act. Yeah. You went to that place. You did this thing. You had this, threes or whatever.
And we see that, especially when people are, especially now when we're going on vacation, like more people are into taking the pictures and
they're actually enjoying
the moment. Yeah, that's crazy. And it's funny. That's all. That's really all ego driven. Mm-hmm. And they say oftentimes with ego, it comes from some type of insecurity that we have, and oftentimes we're not we're not present enough with ourselves to kind of identify that and heal whatever that may be. And that might be going on.
I mean, we can go anywhere. It's the thing I say with that is because we don't have the time to be alone, right? And we don't have the time to just enjoy life, right? We don't have the time to sit down when there's bills on you. Because when you don't have money, right? It's people. We don't have time, and we don't think we have time. We don't think we have. So when I say that, I'm saying the bills are due. You know, it's like, oh, it's Friday. I got to stress this check. I got to make sure these things are happening. Can I pay these things, right? So we're trying to escape pain, not get to pleasure. Most people are trying to escape pain, even when they're trying to get money. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to be like, yo, I don't want to be poor anymore. You know, people are not even coveting the other. Like, I don't want to be riding around a buggy. I don't want people to be looking at me crazy. All this is escaping different pains that you have, not actually getting the pleasure, not actually enjoying the ride, not actually, enjoying the trip. That's right. So, and you say, hey, this is the side of the world. And we believe that you can open up. We believe that taking off the armor. We believe that you can be vulnerable, right? Some people don't believe that. Some people will hear it and say, nah, there's no way you can't be vulnerable at all, right? What is it? What are the principles and tenets you think of Undugu when you think of Undugu?
So I guess the principles are guidelines. So some of the things that we abide by is there's a space with no judgment, because everywhere we go, we're being judged.
What does that mean, no judgment?
So that might mean a brother has gone through a certain situation, and based off of your lifestyle, you're looking at this brother in an in-kind way because he's not living life. He's not living his life the way that you're living yours, or the perception that what you feel is right or wrong. Right. So no judgment, no ego. No ego is really what we kind of just talked about, right? These conversations aren't based off of what you obtain, tangible items. So we're removing the ego. So no ego, no judgment. Speak from an I perspective. I think that was really important. One of the brothers actually came up with that maybe like 2 years ago. And we were having a conversation, dialogue, and like 2 or 3 brothers were going back. It's like, yeah, man, all black man is this. And his brother rolls his hand, was like, with all due respect, I'm not like any of those. So he's like, how about this? How about we all just speak from an I perspective? We all may look alike, we all may have similar experiences, but because we are humans, we all can speak from an I. We all have a different perspective. So that was very powerful, not generalizing all black men or all men are this. And I think the last thing that is really important is no labels. And that means like we're not entering in based off what you do for a living. There's so many spaces where it's almost a invisible hierarchy, right? So if a white collar worker comes in and he's a doctor, physician, and he's sitting next to a janitor, from the outskirt, you may think, well, the janitor doesn't hold as much weight as the doctor. And I know that to be untrue. You can, jewels are dropped just as much from a blue collar worker as they are white collar workers. So if we remove the labels, you have nothing to hold your ego against, right? You have to come naked, right? Like with who you are as a person, not what you've done, not all the accumulated success, who you are as a black man, and what do you have to offer this space based off your experience. So I think those 3 or 4 or 5 principles have been kind of a guide for us. And I think as brothers come in, we all offer our own things. Something that we just started doing yesterday was the hug, right? The hug, chest to chest. Sure. So these are all principles that, very tribal, that I think what we offer, where brothers are coming in with different experiences and they offer, this is what I've learned, this is what helps me out. And, we ask brothers, for some brothers that hat fits, for others that don't. But again, there's no judgment, right? So whatever, it's almost like we call it the well, right? The well is where you can come and pick up information, or you can drop it off based off where you sit in that point of your life or that particular meeting.
Yeah, no ego.
No speaking from an I perspective. So those 4 principles. Mm-hmm. And those were literally built over time. Again, this was, I won't say by accident, but this is all evolution, where we're constantly evolving every single day. You're the business group. It's all about tracking. So, we have some good ones like, okay, what can we do better? Well, sometimes brothers are long-winded. So now we put a clock in there, right? So it's like we're trying to let's lay in that plan. So I think it's just all about being intentional, always keeping a space safe and sacred. but also how do we get better? How do we serve more? So that's one of the things I know you're probably going to end up going because you're a business, so you're all about scaling. So I think the space that we're in right now is how do we serve more people, right? How do we serve more people? This is one of the things that I won't say struggle with, but it's constantly on my mind. How do we serve more people but still offer that same energy, right? I think the energy inside that room is really the magic. I think we've kind of created this magic formula because I've gone to other Black men heal spaces with all due respect to every other space, like all love. But sometimes I'll speak from an I perspective. Sometimes I feel that it's more ego driven than just a space for anyone to be their most authentic self. So my thing is, I know we've created this magic formula. How do we expand that? We're serving right now, I think like the highest number we've had might have been like 60, 70 brothers. But how do we expand the amount of brothers? Because the vast majority are going through these things, man. So how do we expand it with still keeping that same energy? And that's why I've been really talking to you and building with you, and then being also mindful that because this is a service that is saving lives in a lot of aspects. How do we monetize this? Not for the sake of monetize, but because we need money to build out this infrastructure and get better and to serve more individuals. So those are the things that I'm thinking about right now. I thank you a lot, honestly, for just having a lot of conversations off camera, because you've really been giving me a lot of different ways to think about how to grow this thing, right? And that's always been something that's on my mind. So I appreciate you, brother, like for just dropping the jewels that you consistently drop.
So we talked yesterday. What are some things that you think that you can implement over the next coming months that you're looking forward to doing to making that space better and being able to serve that duality, serving the people who don't have the funds and need the service, but also being able to monetize to continue to offer the service to people? Because I understand, we were doing yesterday. We were doing donations, right? And I could feel that some brothers were, shying away, right? They didn't have a donation to give. They wanted to give, right?
And that's all.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people give who can't give, right? They was like, man, I'm gonna give them money, and you don't want that pressure on them, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you balance that out where it's not where you don't have that guilt part with it? Because I've always felt that when you have a space and then at the end of the space there's a donation ask, because then people start feeling pressure.
It's almost like church.
Exactly. Because I'm come back plate. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm going back. Like that word, right? So it's hard because and it's not even that you don't want to. It's like you gotta weigh out. You got family. You got kids in there.
Life is real. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So what do you think you can implement? What are some things that you've been thinking about, and we can just go over them and think about some of those ideas?
Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, I always want to keep the Chop It Up space free, right? I never want to charge for that. I think that should just be a free service forever, because brothers just need that space, right? I think one of the things that I've been thinking about, I had the opportunity to talk to you and kind of flush out some ideas yesterday. I'm doing an online membership program. And the other thing too, we want to get into is more programming. So using Undugu, Chop It Up as what I would normally say is the top of the funnel. I know in conversation with you that kind of fits more in the middle right now. So I'm mindful. But using the Chop It Up as a way to kind of get brothers engaged and kind of inside of our ecosystem, and then from there have different programs depending on what they're looking for. So one of the programs outside of Undugu Chop It Up that we've just started, it's a pilot that's now being completely fleshed out, is Undugu Speaks. And this is something I'm really, really proud of. Undugu Speaks is our speaking program. And essentially it's tackling kind of the spectrum of men. So on one end, you have brothers who may already be a professional speaker, making money speaking, and want to continuously sharpen up their skills inside of our laboratory. So it's covering those brothers, but also on the other spectrum, complete opposite spectrum, I think this is going to help brothers who may work inside of a office where he doesn't have the opportunity to talk a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe in a relationship where his wife or girlfriend might be dominating the conversation. He just doesn't have the confidence. It's funny, before we had time limits for Undugu Chop It Ups, right? I would hear brothers and they would be just talking and talking and talking. And I would get, if I'm being honest, I would get a little frustrated, like, damn, bro, like get it out, man. Like, you got this, there's 50 other brothers in here, like, get it out. But what I realized was, for a lot of these brothers, they don't have enough at-bats. I'm a community, I talk all the time, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of brothers who don't have the opportunity to practice aligning their minds, their thoughts with the words, right? So for these same brothers I was just talking about, it might take them 2 or 3 minutes to kind of get to what they're trying to say. And then when they get to it, when they get the rhythm, it's like, oh, this brother got some shit to talk about. Mm-hmm. But because he doesn't have enough at-bats, there's almost a slight disconnect between his thoughts and how do you change those thoughts into words? So I'm going over. So essentially, I want Undugu Speaks to cover the men who are looking to become professional speakers, get money, but also just that average brother who just wants to be more confident when he communicates, right? He wants to be able to have confidence when he's going in a conversation with his wife. He wants to be able to be confident when he's asking his boss for a raise, right? There's some brothers I know that's inside of corporate America that they probably never, even though they deserve it, they may not ask for a raise because they don't even know how to properly articulate it, and they may have some type of intimidation because it's boss, right? So we want to give these brothers confidence and courage to know when I step inside this space, I know what I'm talking about, and you're going to have to respect me. So I really want to cover that gamut. The other thing I take it a step further is, so also in addition to Undugu and Just That Honey, I'm also, my main passion is speaking, public speaking, and also a speaker coach. So I coach a number of different, I've been a TEDx coach for a number of years. I like to coach. What I realized inside the market when it comes to speaking is there's not an open lane or open path for Black men to get themselves in position, unless you just know, but for the vast majority of us, they don't know that there's a path where you can go and stand on stage, create a keynote, stand on stage, and get a $20,000 check for 45 minutes. So and I know there's a lot of individuals that are popular that's inside the marketplace, and they're offering this, weekend, come for this weekend and learn all you need to know. And like, no disrespect to them, what I want to do with Undugu Speaks is create almost an assembly line, if you will, right? Of men who never thought they can speak. They start speaking, they get better, and before you know it, a year or two out, I don't want to put no time frame out, but before you know it, they're not getting calls from stages, bro. And I'll give you one last example before we move on subjects. There's a brother named Charles that's inside of Undugu, is part of Undugu. Been to several Chop It Ups, right? Never really heard this brother speak, right? Always kind of off to the side, always just doing his thing, quiet. And this brother spoke at Undugu Speaks, and when Undugu Speaks, we have prepared speeches, so brothers speak for 5 to 7 minutes, something that you prepared. Bro, I almost get teary-eyed, bro, like hearing this brother who I've never heard speak inside this room full of men and stand up for 5 to 7 minutes and giving a dynamic. Now, mind you, I don't know if it's his first time speaking or not, but he hasn't spoken a whole lot, but just be coaching me, I'm looking at this brother like, oh, bro, there's some things we can tweak and turn around, but you're a speaker. Right. We can find you a subject and you can get on stage. I think there's so much opportunity for men of color who've never shared their story, who we have all dynamic stories. If we give ourselves the confidence and a platform and a pathway, I think we can change the game, man. Quite honestly, bro. I know I'm talking heavily on this Undugu Speaks, but
no, I got you because
I'm very passionate about the Undugu Speaks portion of our program.
I think it's a continuation though of Undugu, right?
Indeed.
Because it comes from Undugu where you first learn to just open up and express, right? Now that I want to express, now that I'm comfortable expressing, how do I express?
Absolutely.
How do I communicate, right?
Absolutely.
How do I communicate in those 3-minute blocks, those 2-minute blocks? How do I make that happen, right? And go there. So going to Undugu Speaks, right? I think that you have 2 clear lanes that you need to have. And I'm going to address one thing first. Is I see it like people like, hey, come this weekend and get a text talk and give a talk and be a speech guy, right? Same thing with business. Hey, learn how to do business in 5 minutes, and make $50 million, right? And I said, if you knew that secret, why are you coming to coach me for it?
Yeah, why you need 95 minutes? Right?
Why you need more than
math ain't math, bro.
It nigga math ain't math, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I always think about, right? So I always, because I see it in other spaces where it's very difficult, and this is the thing that's going on to me in business, and I'm saying is that most people are trying to figure out, how do I do as little bit of work and get as much money as possible, right? Not deliver as much value as possible. How do I get as little bit of work, right? It's not like, let me give as much value as possible. So we want to do everything, because I have my own thing about business where I'm like, listen, you can't learn it in 5 days because there's a mindset, there's an attitude, and these are deliberate habits that you have to keep practicing over and over again, because we all have bad habits. Not all of us have been leaders, right? Some people will come through and be natural leaders. I had to learn so much, and I'm a person that reads and studies and takes coaching all the time. We have to be conscious of saying, I'm not here for the people who want microwave. Do you want to be great?
It's a slow cook. It's almost like making gumbo.
Come on, it's like making gumbo. You know what I'm saying? You might make oxtails.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it last longer. And I think that's when you have a longer impact. I had this quote. We have to really focus on building something that outlives us.
Outlives us, yes.
And in order to, that just takes time. There's just no other way to. You do it. Yeah, it's gonna take time. So you got to be intentional. You got to be passionate about it. So if you don't have the passion for it, it ain't gonna work anyway, right? That's something else is gonna come up, and the next shiny thing you make money, you're gonna jump on it. This has to be something that you live, bro.
And we created this podcast and the coaching group and everything because I thought that there was no lane even for Black men, right? I believe that we're the least served group, to tell you the truth, right? And that by each other, you know what I'm saying? Like Black men don't serve other Black men. Yeah. Black women serve each other. Like they focus, they deliberately go out and say, "Hey, I'm for Black women," right?
Who taught us how to serve them?
Yeah, nobody taught us.
That's right. Yeah, so even growing up in our household, right? Like the moms or the someone always bring the plate, like. We've never been, a lot of these things, right? It's not that we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do it.
Not serve.
Absolutely. And that doesn't matter the age, right? Yeah. A lot of people, man, when you're in your 30s, you should know, like, if no one's taught me, I don't care how old I am, right? Like some people were taught when they was 5 years old how to ride a bike. Yeah. If I was never around a bike and I'm 25 years old, I don't know how to ride that. Someone showed me. So I think it's about first having the, a servant's mentality, one, and then two, on the flip side, brother, we got to remove our egos, right? We have to be honest enough to be like, you know what, Clive, I own this business, but I don't know what I have this product, but I don't understand the business of the business. And until we're honest with ourselves and be willing to be vulnerable and share that I don't know, there's no way that you can learn. So I think it's almost a two-part, right? First, you have to have the teacher who's willing to have that certain mindset, but also the student has to be teachable. The student has to be teachable.
But then we go back to Undugu, where Undugu, chop it up, where the space is provided. Because if I'm a business owner and I think that if I let everybody know I'm failing, that I'm a failure, right? If I'm like, if I reveal my finances, they're gonna know that I'm a failure and I'm not really doing what. So our business, we didn't make $1 million last year, right?
You said that several times. Damn, you was close, bro.
I'm just saying the reason why, because I was like, because this being a coach for Black men, right? Helping them build their business, right? I said, I ain't make $1 million yet, baby. I ain't a multi-millionaire. I can't teach anybody anything. What right do I have?
It's the fairy tale we tell. I'll give you a perfect analogy to very, very similar to what you're saying. So 3 years ago, I was coaching my son's soccer team. I have never played soccer a day in my life. I don't know how to play soccer. They just need a warm body that's older that the kids can respect. And I remember talking to one of the other coaches, and I'm literally like, bro, like I don't know, I'm on YouTube pulling videos. And he was like, Jermail, don't worry about it. As long as you're one step ahead of the students, you don't have to have the whole thing. As long as you're just a little bit further, right? None of that matter. Again, that goes back to these that self-talk, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't hit that M, but I know the numbers you hit, bro. Like, that was a successful year.
Yeah.
I know the hour and a half conversation that we had yesterday. You know your stuff. So we have to get out of this, really out of our own heads thinking, what does success look like? And like the other thing too is like, who said that, like, when I make $1 million, I'm a rock? Like, who drew up this number? You know what I mean? Like, it's just this magical pie in the sky. I ain't shit until I hit this number.
It sounds good. It sounds.
It's all based off,
It sounds good.
But I will say, there's a lot of, especially in the COVID area, there's been a lot of people that, you said this yesterday. There's somebody that made $1 million during COVID selling toilet tissue.
Mm-hmm.
That don't mean they're a good business, right? They
just struggled. They got lucky.
Perfect time, right? So if you're talking about legacy and building something, you have to have those foundational principles, and it's clear.
Yeah.
I know you're interviewing me, but I got,
I got
we deliver flour, right? Like, you know your stuff where you can build out a lot of successful business. Because I tell you, from an entrepreneur point of view, a lot of us know our product, but we don't know the business of the business. You are you're a hidden gem, and I know you don't like the attention, so I'm allowing you to turn it back on me. But I was
thinking about the thing I did with a Guru speak. Because I was thinking about I said, if you had stages, right, and you started carving it out, what would make successful? Because this is what I think what my frustration would be if I was an elite speaker, right? Is that, so I've been in business, right? And sometimes I've taken business programs, because I don't take courses, I take programs, because the coaching is more important to me than the actual course, right? Because the feedback, right? So if I'm communicating, I can watch a course on communication, but your feedback is more valuable than watching 30 courses, right? You see what I'm saying? So I always take coaching programs. But I've been in coaching programs where I've been in there with entrepreneurs who were novices, right? And the teaching they were trying to teach us, and the questions weren't. So what they were asking was hard for me to stay afloat with, because it didn't serve me, right? Because I knew more than they did, right? Where my skill set was.
What makes Undugu speaks different?
Well, I'm not saying that might make it different. I was saying Undugu, if I was a professional speaker trying to get that stage, where are you going to go to? And I'm just talking about business ideas.
Absolutely. Is
to say, hey, there's this level section before you get to this class right here. That's one of my things with Toastmasters. I was a beginner, but there was guys in there who didn't say, nothing. And I was like, wow, man. I was like, these guys are amazing. And
but you notice they're still in there with the guys that might be saying, because we all learn from everyone, right? So it's taking bits and pieces and nuggets. We learn from everyone. To your point, to answer your question though, so currently how we have to design, and being mindful, this is still in pilot season. So first, let me talk about the manual, right? So very similar to Undugu, Chop It Up. It's all about emotional intelligence. We design these questions in this manual based off of us learning more of ourselves. So the way we have our manual is designed in a way where we're teaching 2 principles per chapter. One principle is going to always be an emotional intelligence theme. And then we're going to also have a principle that represents a foundational speaking principle. So I'll give you an example. So chapter 1 for Undugu Speaks Manual is the emotional intelligence theme is vulnerability, right? And then the principle for public speaking is organizing your speech. So as a speaker that have done however many talks, I haven't seen a space where just the questions and the theme of the book is designed for you to learn more about yourself, right? So I think oftentimes a speaker who is talking about tea, he can talk all day about tea. He might get paid a lot of money to talk about tea. But have you ever talked about vulnerability, right? Which is forcing you to really look within inside. Oftentimes, especially with our community, we're geared to helping Black men. Our manual is the themes, especially from an emotional intelligence perspective, the themes alone is forcing men to learn more about themselves. We got themes like vulnerability, belonging, empathy, humility, love. Trying to think of some more.
But also with the organizational,
and every single one has, right? So you might, along those might have eye contact, vocal variety, pausing, all foundational speaking. So the idea is after the 10 chapters, not only do they have a greater sense of emotional awareness, they know just foundational principles of how to pause, right? How to look in the camera, how to control your voice when you're trying to make a point, right? How to raise your voice. All these foundational things is really just a start. Being mindful that you're still a pilot. I already have kind of a version 2 for those individuals that are looking to really take their skills to the next level. Because again, you got to be mindful that you may be a dynamic speaker, but you may not know the path, right? There is a path that you take to put yourself out there, so for companies to recognize like, oh, there's a market for this particular speaker. So it's one thing to, I think you were down, just a few minutes ago, you were downstairs, you were talking about, the brother was talking about coffee, and he was like, it don't matter. You can have the best cup of coffee in the world, but if nobody knows that this location has a coffee, it don't matter. So I think it's very similar with public speaking. You could be the most dynamic speaker in the world, but if you don't know how to get on, you don't know how to get on. It's still a problem, right? So really designing an assembly line, a clear path from beginners or mediocre or high level skills, and then finding ways where they can implement. I think the other cool thing that I want to do is so with Undugu Speaks Again, it's going to be had with it 4 members of Undugu, but this same programming I want to bring out to corporate America because of my relationship with Just That Honey. I have a lot of corporate ties, so it's easy for me to say, hey, are you all looking for assistance with leadership, right? Are you looking for your employees to be more conversationalist, right? To know the group a little bit more? You all may want to call us and do that.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is that an impact play or is that a money play?
Good question. I think it's both. Okay. I think it's an impact play because there are men in corporate America. We have these things called ERGs, right? These are very like selected group of, so they might have like an LGBT ERG or a black male ERG, right? Okay. There are specific individuals inside this space that still need help, right? So, Tom, or I don't want to use Tom. That sounds like
Derek or something.
Derek, right? Derek. He may work for Coca-Cola, doing good, but he wants to build up his leadership skills. He wants to build up his self-confidence skills. And if we can present this to Coca-Cola, 4 brothers like Derek and whomever, then not only are we benefiting the black man inside that space, they're also cutting us a check. 1, and then 2, the other thing is, in terms of facilitation, we will need brothers inside of Coca-Cola, whatever company, to facilitate that. So this also becomes a play or an opportunity for the brother who 2 years ago never spoke. Now he has his weight up. He knows how to speak. And now he can go out instead of Jermail or Clyde going out. He can go out inside of the school districts in Atlanta or even corporate America and facilitate these classes. So I think it's an and or. I mean, pardon me.
It's both.
It's absolutely. It's
not if or. It's a both.
Absolutely. All recognizing that there's needs and how can we fulfill those needs and those voids.
So one of my things is, of course, is that profit is the lifeblood of business, but impact is the purpose, right? So we always say that because, of course, you got to have the money, right? That's to keep the lights on, keep everything going on to, and then we want to also employ other people, right?
Absolutely.
My thing about business, so when I always say a successful business is a business that makes money and employs people and makes an impact. Because some people are like, because there's people with one-man businesses that make millions of dollars, like they're the only person. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not employing anybody, fam. You see what I'm saying? Like all that money comes right into you and you're not employing anybody, especially when you're just trying to, a lot of companies are software businesses, or, YouTube affiliate program or something like that. Something that's not actually impacting. But when you have to, what you're trying to do, those create jobs, create opportunities, and then there's nothing better, as we talked about before, seeing that a paycheck feeding a family, seeing somebody go on vacation. Hey, you know, I always met with the employees about Friday. They be like, yeah, it's one of our employees. Be like, yeah, it's Friday. It's good for you. I don't know if it's great for me.
That's what. Yeah, as a business owner, that's real.
They like going on PTO days too, right? They be like, I'm taking a PTO day. I'm like, man, I need to get me a PTO.
Word. But what a blessing it is to be able to provide that opportunity.
I like I said, I make the joke, but I want, but they don't know behind the scenes that we're actually, how do we advocate? Because we want you to be happy. You know, a lot of times, a business owner that understands that having employees that are happy, that enjoy that, because I always tell people, you can't pay anybody enough money. There's NBA athletes that turn down $50 million contracts, right? So there's no amount of money that you can pay. You know what I'm saying? People are like, oh, well, you gave them more money. I said, listen, there's always, people have turned down $100 million, $50 million, $1 billion. So there's no amount of money you can pay somebody. People gotta love where they work at. They gotta enjoy coming in.
It's the culture.
It's the culture. They're not even looking for another job.
That's real talk. I would say also, especially this new generation of humans, we have a lot of conversations. Like they're not really driven by money. They want an even work-life balance. They want to be respected. They want to be heard when they're inside the workplace. And that was new for me because I grew up in the era where it's like, fuck, you pay me, right? Like you can be a little rude to me, Jeff, but like as long as my name is spelled right on that check, we're good. We're good. But we're in an era where people, which I love, people are respecting who they are and respecting our boundaries. You don't call me after work, and this is my life. And then when I'm here, I'm fully committed. But when I'm gone, I'm off that.
And I'm committed because we're making an impact, not because we're just here to, everybody's here to get a check and racing around and I definitely understand it. It's so I've learned something in life, right? Is that it takes a lot of work up front, but you reap the benefits on the end. So one of my things is planning, right? And I love to plan. And sometimes when I don't do the things that I always say, my future self, I want to make sure that I do this for my future self, right? So, like I go out there, I make a task list, right? So in the task, I would just say, oh, go to the bank, right? And then when I go look at it a week later, they say, I'm like, what am I going to the bank for? I'm saying, I'm like, go to the bank. But if I put down, what's the purpose of this task? What are we trying to accomplish with this task? What resources do I need for this task? How do I know the task is done correctly? That takes 5 more minutes, right? But next week on the back end,
save you a lot of time.
Save you a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
The same thing with employees. To be more, how are you doing today? How's it going? But it saves you more time than seeing a flood of people just quit on you. I've had in the cleaning business, we've seen where people, I've never had this to me. I'm glad, I thank God, is that, people be like, their whole cleaning crew quit on them in the same day.
And it's like, that was not, that didn't just happen overnight. That was building up, and you didn't recognize that as the owner.
And you didn't, how did you not? Because you're not having conversations, because you're not checking in with them, because they're getting frustrated and fed up. Right, and this is what happens, and then they're like the next week, because with a lot of clean groups, and people are like, and I go back and I say, this is why it's hard to be a good owner for you, because you don't look to say what I did wrong. You say everybody's bad, they're all terrible, they don't want to work. I did everything for them. I gave them a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we gave them a paycheck. Ultimate disrespect, right? You really give me nothing, right? So and being on the other side, said you must have never been an employee. But you must have forgot when you was an employee, right? Yeah. And just building out those businesses, making that impact. And this is why I'm seeing Undugu and talking about, I look forward to seeing that the membership group, right? And then seeing the retreats that you were talking about, right? Brother Mario, he was talking about, hey, the retreats are coming up. What kind of events are coming up? Because I just believe that you guys can do so much, bringing in other speakers, right? Bringing because there's so many men who are in the circle who have so much to give, and you just have to create that space for them to express and give what they want to give.
Yeah, first figuring out what they, what they have to give. I think that's the space that we're in right now. So like last year, it was a lot of always group settings. Talking about for me. And then really like the last 2 months of last year, I just had a little bit more time. I was like, yo, instead of meeting everyone at one time, let me just go to lunch with this brother.
Yeah.
And man, like every time I go out with a brother, man, it's like, damn, but you sit damn, you sit on all this information, bro. You back in the back wing quiet.
We've been talking like two years, right? Like,
literally, bro. It's like, and now I'm just starting to realize, which I think is the that's the magic. Yeah, but it's really the magic on Undugu. You think because in a lot of other settings, we would have the first day everybody would have known what everyone else does.
Yeah,
it's almost like we've kind of flipped it on its back. Where we start with the broken pieces first. How can we help you, brother? And then a year or two, whatever that is. By the way, I own an airplane, right? I own all these things. And it's like, oh, now we can do business. And I think the cool thing about it is we're not building businesses off false relationships. Like it's solid. Like I've been in a room with this grown man who was shedding tears. I know more things about this brother than some of the people he lives with, right? So to go from that to do business, that should be a much easier landslide because I know the fabric and the character of who this man is. So working out a real estate deal, right, or going to business, that should be a light lift at that point, man. So I'm very proud. Something that's really made me proud over the last few weeks is going out to these one-on-one conversations with brothers and hearing them say, "Oh yeah, well I met up with XYZ. We got a deal on the table." It's like, damn, all this is going on, and I'm trying to keep my head on, like making sure brothers are meeting inside the space, and brothers are connecting, and that's why I didn't recognize, at the end of the meetings or before the meeting start, how much phone. So for me to see that these brothers are meeting inside this space, and they're now outside this space forming their own relationships, bro. That's one of the greatest gifts for me, bro. Like for real, man. Like, y'all want to start a business together? And I know and so they're bringing back all of these goods, right? Because the ecosystem, they're part of the ecosystem. It's a marvelous thing, bro. It's a marvelous thing, bro.
I'm gonna finish you off with this, that because I go back to every brother really is, I don't think it's conscious, because it takes for a while for you to even say that I'm gonna be vulnerable, take off the armor in front of all these men that I've never even met before, right? Takes a minute. But also brothers just subconsciously recognize that if you're here,
you already know what it is.
You here on a path.
You already know what it is.
Since we've been here, right? Oh, just think about this. How many bad business deals have you heard about since you've been in the Undugu? Like brothers been like, oh yeah, this brother messed me over. Have you heard of any? No. Just think about it. And you'd be the first one to hear, right?
Absolutely.
Just think about the probability of years. No brother has come to you and say, yo, you still rock with brother such and such? I met him at your joint, because the association. They be like, yo, I met him at a dude, he got me for $500,000. He got me for $100,000, he got me for $10,000. Because most of the brothers, all the brothers that we've been here are coming with good intentions.
And it's a certain character. Yeah.
It takes a certain character to just come to this room. You're not gonna feel welcome if you feel like you're a man's man. The macho.
It's funny because we've had brothers come in with that space and that energy, and respectfully, they always weed themselves out, bro. Yeah. Like it's always short. It's always short-lived. They feel, I can go in here and dominate a conversation.
And you can't.
It's like, nah, this ain't that, bro.
You just talking for your ego.
And we all know, right? We all have enough emotions. Like, all right, where's the 3 minutes? But I will say too, on the flip side, what I've seen happen as well, though, right? Brothers come in with that same energy, and they keep showing up. And it's like, oh, okay, there is another way we can do business. There's another order. And quite honestly, I love that a lot better because, quite honestly, y'all have been in that space. That's a very unique space. Mm-hmm. The average men have not been in the space where brothers are sharing. So I don't expect brothers to come in and just immediately get it because it's like a fish out of water, right? But if you sit down, and be a dragonfly on the wall, don't even have the conversation. Just kind of feel the energy. I think, of course, your audience can't feel the energy, but when you inside that space, man, it's a certain
energy.
It's a certain energy that comes up, man. And I owe that to every single man that's come inside that space that's been honest enough to share their story, bro.
All right, bro. So we going down, man. I appreciate it, man.
We have to have a follow up, man. In a few months after we've completed our plan with the Undugu working with you, come back and do a follow up, almost like a Shark Tank, and see where are you now.
Yeah. Tell them where we can follow, where we can go to Undugu, and where we can, if you have social media or whatever, you know, so what we can do.
So our website is Undugu Kickbacks. Our social media handles is Undugu_chop it up. That's UNDU_chop it up. Hope to see you all at the next meeting, brothers.
All right, man. Y'all stay focused, stay blessed, man. Black Business Warrior, we out, man. Making money, making an impact, man. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.